Why is it that every time Mercedes Moné steps into the spotlight, it feels like there's an army of critics waiting to tear her down? I mean, I get it, she's a star, but it's honestly exhausting to watch people go out of their way to hate on someone who's done so much for wrestling. If you're a fan like me, then you've been watching her journey from WWE to New Japan, to AEW, and let me tell you, it's been nothing short of incredible. But even with all her success, she still faces some of the harshest criticism in the industry. Now, don't get me wrong, every public figure has their haters. It's nothing new for someone like Mercedes, but when you take a closer look at her career, you realize that the hate she's getting doesn't even come close to matching the reality of what she's accomplished. Today, we're going to address that head-on and set the record straight. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into why Mercedes Moné deserves more respect than what she's been given. Let's start at the beginning. Mercedes Moné, formerly known as Sasha Banks, made a huge splash when she walked out of WWE in 2022. Along with her partner Naomi, Mercedes decided to take a stand over creative differences with the higher-ups, most notably Vince McMahon. If you've been following the story, you know that it wasn't just a small disagreement, it was a matter of principle. Both women were disillusioned with the creative direction of their characters, and they chose to leave rather than continue working under circumstances they felt weren't right. And while the media may have painted them as troublemakers or difficult, anyone who really understands the industry knows that this was a bold move, a statement about the power wrestlers have to control their own careers. Mercedes didn't just walk out and disappear into the ether, though. No, she took that time to really focus on herself and what she wanted to do with her career. While Naomi had a shorter break and returned to WWE, Mercedes took her talents to New Japan Pro Wrestling. She became a global star, transcending the boundaries of just being a WWE superstar and reinventing herself in a way that no one expected. That's where things really started to heat up. She wasn't just a wrestler anymore, she was a businesswoman, a model, an actress. She was expanding her brand beyond what anyone could have imagined. This wasn't just about wrestling for Mercedes, it was about setting her own terms and making her mark on the world, and that's exactly what she did. Flash forward to 2024. The world was already buzzing with anticipation when Mercedes made her AEW debut. Let's be real, this was a game changer. It wasn't just about the surprise factor. Mercedes signed reportedly one of the biggest contracts in wrestling, and the pressure was on. AEW was hoping that the massive star power she brought would lead to higher viewership, attendance, and social media engagement. But that didn't happen overnight. Mercedes did, of course, face her critics early on. People were quick to point out her awkward first few months with AEW, especially when she wasn't able to wrestle for a period of time due to injury. The haters were already on the attack, saying things like, "She can't wrestle, she's just here for the paycheck." But let's take a step back. AEW wasn't exactly in the best place either. TV ratings were declining, attendance was down, and fan engagement was at an all-time low. So can we really blame Mercedes for the struggles of an entire company? It's true that Mercedes didn't hit the ground running in AEW as smoothly as some expected. Her promos were criticized for being stiff and robotic, and some even wondered if AEW had made a mistake by bringing her in. But here's the thing, growth doesn't happen overnight. Mercedes may have had her growing pains, but who doesn't? With time, her promos started to feel more natural, more like the Mercedes we had seen in WWE, confident, bold, and unapologetic. It was clear Mercedes was here to stay. Speaking of AEW's struggles, let's dive a bit deeper into the situation. It's no secret that the company has been facing some tough times. Ratings are down across the board, attendance is inconsistent, and AEW's social media presence isn't what it used to be. So, when people criticize Mercedes for not immediately bringing in outside eyeballs, I have to wonder, how fair is that? Look, AEW has its own set of problems, and it's unrealistic to place the blame solely on one person. No matter how big of a star they are, the reality is that wrestling, in general, is in a bit of a downturn. WWE has been pulling out all the stops to maintain its massive global reach, and AEW is still fighting to carve out its own identity. Mercedes Moné was brought in to be a part of that solution, but no one person can single-handedly save a company in turmoil. Yes, Mercedes did have some missteps in the beginning, but isn't that true of anyone starting a new chapter? She wasn't coming into a well-oiled machine. She was coming into a wrestling landscape that was shifting and evolving. The fact that she was able to find her groove, deliver some unforgettable matches, and steadily rise through the ranks is a testament to her work ethic and adaptability. By the time Mercedes had been with AEW for a year, it was clear that the naysayers had underestimated her. She was more than just a former WWE star, she was a dominant force in AEW. Her reign as TBS champion became one of the most talked about storylines in women's wrestling. It wasn't just about the title, it was about what Mercedes brought to that championship. Let's talk about her reign for a moment. Mercedes didn't come into AEW just to collect a paycheck and go through the motions. She was there to leave a legacy. The TBS Championship was in need of a top-tier talent to elevate it to the next level, and Mercedes stepped up to the plate. Her performances in the ring were top-notch, and her ability to create captivating storylines only added to the prestige of the title. And yet, there are still critics who say she hasn't done enough, that she's just being handed this spot because of her name. But let's be clear, Mercedes has earned every bit of her success. You can't fake chemistry in the ring, and you can't fake creating compelling narratives. Mercedes has done both, time and time again. Her matches against rising stars like Chris Statlander and even Stephanie Valkyrie have shown just how much of an impact she's had on AEW. One of the most baffling criticisms I've seen surrounding Mercedes Moné is the comparison to Charlotte Flair. People love to say that she's being booked just like Charlotte, overpowered, overhyped, and always positioned to win. But is that really fair to Mercedes? Let's break this down. Charlotte Flair is one of the most decorated wrestlers in WWE history. But let's be honest, her character hasn't evolved much in recent years. She's been booked as an unstoppable force, but at times, that has come at the cost of other wrestlers who could have benefited from more screen time or title opportunities. Mercedes, on the other hand, is evolving with every match, every promo. She's not stuck in one-dimensional booking. She's challenging herself to grow, to adapt, and to elevate everyone around her. Her feud with Chris Statlander didn't just elevate Statlander, it also showcased the depth of Mercedes' character and the level of competition she brings to the table. You simply can't lump her in the same category as Charlotte Flair when Mercedes is actively working to push the envelope and bring something fresh to AEW every week. Now, let's address something that's been a point of contention for many fans: Mercedes holding the TBS Championship. When Mercedes first came to AEW, there were a lot of expectations on her to be immediately placed in the main event scene, but instead, she was given the TBS title, a secondary championship in the women's division. Some fans felt like this was a slight against her, but here's the truth: the TBS title was a perfect fit. It wasn't about putting her in a secondary position, it was about establishing her as a dominant presence and allowing her to bring prestige to the championship. In many ways, she's done just that. While the TBS title isn't as coveted as the Women's Championship, it's still a significant title in AEW's women's division, and Mercedes has given it a level of credibility that it didn't have before. So, what does the future hold for Mercedes Moné? Well, as we near the end of her TBS Championship reign, it seems only fitting that she might eventually set her sights on the AEW Women's Championship. It's been a long time coming, and with Toni Storm holding that title for an extended period, it feels like the right time for Mercedes to move up. A feud between Mercedes and Toni Storm could be exactly what AEW needs: two top-tier talents, each with a compelling story to tell. And once Mercedes dethrones Storm, it will solidify her place as one of AEW's greatest female wrestlers of all time. I have no doubt she's ready for that next challenge, and fans will be on the edge of their seats to see how she conquers it. Mercedes Moné's journey has been full of highs and lows, but she's always kept pushing forward. No matter what the critics say, she's proven time and time again that she's a force to be reckoned with. So let's stop comparing her to others and start recognizing her for what she is: a true star in every sense of the word. And if you're one of the haters, maybe it's time to reconsider your stance, because Mercedes Moné is just getting started.